Hello, and welcome to this video on what exactly to put in your cover letter when you are submitting your manuscript to a scientific journal. This video follows up on part 1, posted 2 weeks ago on exactly what not to do in your cover letter when submitting it. I'm going to reference some of the parts of that video throughout this one, so if you haven't watched it yet, you can go back and watch that video. Otherwise, I am Casey Butler. This is Butler SciComm. Welcome to the channel, and let's get started with our cover letter. So, first thing here on what to put in your cover letter. At the end of the last video, I talked about the things that we didn't want to include and then the things that we did want to include in the cover letter. Here we're going to go a bit more in depth into our cover letter, which is going to consist of 3 and only 3 paragraphs on a 1-page cover letter. It does not need to be longer than 1 page, and you do not need more than 3 paragraphs to convey a convincing argument to an editor for why they should consider your paper. The first paragraph that we're going to include here is going to be a brief description of the field as it stands, written in a way that relates to the journal. So what I mean here, and we're going to talk a bit more about finding out how to relate to the journal shortly, but what I mean here is that we want to set up the field such that it would be interesting to the readership of the journal, that it would relate to the types of work that this journal publishes. Within this first paragraph, we are going to make absolutely sure that we include one sentence that says explicitly where the problem is in the field, what problem exists now, what gap is out there, such that our research needed to exist, what problem did we try to solve with our work, okay? One sentence, it has to be in there, written out cleanly. This will help make the importance of your work stand out to the editor. Next is going to be the paragraph that everybody is most familiar with, but we are going to limit it to 1 paragraph. Here is where you are going to give an overview of what you did in the paper and a very brief summary of the results of this paper. Remember from the last video, here we do not need to list everything that we did. We do not want our results to speak for themselves. We want to just give a brief overview of what we did, give them an idea of the type of work we covered, the breadth of the work we covered, how interesting, important, how different the experiments are, things like that, okay? This, remember the cover letter, this is a teaser trailer for your paper. This does not have to include everything. It just has to interest an editor in opening the paper and reading more about your work in the actual paper itself. Then after this paragraph on the results, we're going to have an entirely new paragraph at the end that most people do not include. So this is going to be a really important one. This is going to be a paragraph that discusses first, very explicitly, very clearly states to the editor exactly why the work you are presenting to them would be a good fit for their journal. The other thing this paragraph is going to discuss is why the work that you did, why the results that you found would be interesting to the readership of this journal. So this is probably a surprising paragraph to a lot of people. If you go back and you go through video number 1, you will see the difference between emails B and C. The email C that is written specifically to another person that makes it very clear that you were interested in their work, that you know what you're talking about, that you know which journal you're applying to, that you've done a little bit of research on it, is going to be a much more appealing message. Additionally, like we talked about in the previous video, your editor reads a lot of cover letters and has to spend a lot of time reading through these cover letters, synthesizing this information in their head, figuring out how all of this fits together, how your work might or might not be a good fit for their journal, having to think deeply about research that isn't theirs. And what you want to do here is see if you can possibly save your editor a little bit of brain space in a way that is going to make your email also stand out a little bit better, make it a little bit easier for them. If you can make somebody's life easier, they're going to be more interested in helping you. So this is what we're going to try to do with this final paragraph here. We're going to take the information for our work. We're going to do some of that thinking for our editor, include that information right up front so they already have an idea and can start picturing how your work might be a good fit for their journal. And another way to think about this last paragraph, if you go through and read the post associated with this video, you will see that I am talking about a puzzle. And so what usually happens when you submit a cover letter that looks like email B that is expecting the results to speak for themselves, what you are doing there is you are handing your editor a puzzle, and you are expecting your editor to assemble that puzzle and then see if it's a good fit for their journal. So what we want to do instead is start putting that puzzle together a little bit for our editor. Instead of handing them a bunch of results that we're hoping speak for themselves, we're going to try to hand them at least a partially assembled puzzle so they can already start seeing the picture, start seeing how it fits in, and their job is automatically a lot easier. This is going to be very helpful for somebody who is reading a lot of submissions. This is especially true if your editor, for instance, just sent a couple papers out for review and doesn't feel pressure to find papers immediately to send out for review. Or potentially, your editor just hasn't refreshed their coffee in a while, is a little bit tired, and doesn't feel like thinking as hard as maybe you were hoping they should or that they will need to understand your cover letter. Here, we're going to try to do a little bit of that for them so that your submission is not as dependent on how many papers they've just accepted or how recently they've refilled their coffee. We want to make sure that the work that you are submitting is able to stand on its own merits, and we're going to do that by helping the editor out a little bit here and making a cover letter that is personalized, that you've thought deeply about, and that fits with the journal that you are applying to. So, how do I want you to go about doing this? We're going to use the journal Nature Methods as an example. And so if you go into Google and you type Nature Methods, it's going to come up with a page like I'm showing here. And one of the links that comes up under Nature Methods is going to be about the journal. You might also see something that says aims and scope. It's going to give you the same basic thing. What you want to do, click on that link, and the journal has already done a lot of this work for you because what you're going to find here on this page is an exact description of what they're looking for. If you go through here and you read this description from Nature Methods, you can see exactly what types of research they're looking for, exactly what information they're looking for in the studies, exactly what their readership consists of, what their readership is looking for, the types of people that read this journal. And that is very helpful information because first, it's going to make you make absolutely sure that your work is a good fit for this journal. That is going to save both you and the editor a lot of time if that is not true. So first, make sure that your study has everything that you need that this journal says that it is looking for. That's going to be your first step. Next, when you go to write your cover letter, think again about email C. Email C, where that student who was applying went in, read some papers about the lab, and was able to compose an email that they knew exactly what type of work that lab was working on. They knew exactly what they wanted to do in that lab. They were able to intelligently discuss the science. That's exactly what we're going to do here. By knowing the types of work that this journal is looking to publish, by knowing the things that this journal is looking to publish, you can make that very clear in your cover letter so your editor doesn't have to go and search for that themselves. Okay. For instance, Nature Methods says that they are looking for a new method and its validation. You can put right in your cover letter, we developed a new method that does this and validated it by doing this. Okay. By even using those exact words that they are looking for, you are making your editor's job easier. You are making it easier for them to look at your cover letter, to pick out that information, to realize that your paper has covered the check boxes that they're going to be looking for without them having to think as hard about this. So basically, we're going to be looking for what this journal is looking for. We're going to be looking for the types of things they're looking to publish, and we're going to be telling the editor in our cover letter exactly how our paper has that information. Okay? And as an aside, if your paper doesn't have this information, this is not a video telling you to lie. Instead, I'm going to be telling you why are you submitting to this journal. Okay? So don't lie, don't make stuff up. Just make the editor's job a little bit easier. And so also here, this page should talk a little bit about the readership of this paper. Are there a lot of maybe doctors or clinicians, practicing clinicians who are reading this paper? If so, you can talk about some of the implications that might be directly related to the medical field. If there's a lot of researchers or people in industry who are reading it. You can also talk about how the work that you're presenting would have implications for all of those different types of people. This is going to just make it easier, again, for the editor to find that information, easier for them to make a decision about your manuscript, and hopefully make a better impression on them than a cover letter that is written more like email B, that is just throwing information at them about your paper, nothing about them. They have no idea if you've submitted the same cover letter to 10 different journals and you are hoping that one just accepts it. Here you are making a great impression. You are showing them that you have done your homework, you have done your research, you know that your paper is a good fit for this journal, and you are making their job a teeny bit easier. You're saving them a little bit of brain space by actually showing them the reasons why that is true. If you want more information on this, you can go to my website and read more about this on the accompanying post. You can also find right on there the formulas that I give for what to include in your cover letter. So if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to include them below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this in the future. And most of all, best of luck writing your cover letter. Good luck in your submission, and hopefully we see your manuscript published soon. Happy writing!